Okay, welcome back everyone to the My Generation podcast. Today, I am joined by returning podcast guest Harry Munday. He appeared on the second ever episode of the My Generation podcast. That day, we were talking about collecting and materialism. But today, we're going to be talking about one of Harry's more hidden skills and achievements. We're going to be talking about swimming, because Harry used to be a swimming instructor. So, Harry, welcome back to the podcast.
Hello, it's wonderful to be back.
Thank you. It's great to have you back on the show. So, being a swimming instructor, could you tell us where it all started?
Well, ironically, my whole passion for swimming came from me sort of being kicked out of a swimming group, ironically.
Okay.
It was my mother's side of the family. Her biological father was he was a lifeguard, and she was very into like beaches and all that. And from a young age, me and my brother, we had swimming lessons, and my mom was very adamant, you do this, but if you don't want to, it's fair enough. I just remember there was a fair few couple of weeks where I was like, I don't want to go. But then I think it was one week I was like, I'm really missing this. I really want to do some swimming. And fortunately, we got a phone call that day saying, oh, because you haven't been so long, we've fortunately had to drop you from the group. And I was like, no, I'm going to go swimming. You can't stop me, really.
And so what did you do? You just showed up?
Well, I couldn't show up because they would kick me out. But me and my mum, we just kept looking around for all the local swimming groups. Then I found Hydro. Oh, no, it's not Hydro now. Oh, it is called Hydro now, but it used to be called Silverdale Swimming School, which was owned by a very lovely man who's now retired, and sold the school to someone else. But throughout the whole time there, I had the best experiences of my life.
And that was because of what exactly? What made the experiences so good?
It was just really relaxing, just having a swim. It was a nice way to work out as well, and generally everyone there was just a delight to talk to. I never had a bad experience with anyone, ever.
And so you were swimming there for how many years?
Ooh, I was about 8-9 years. That was a very long time.
And so you probably came into it quite casually at the start, just swimming, just having a bit of fun, a bit of fitness, but then it slowly became something where you began to teach others. What kick-started that transition? Was there a point where they needed someone to step in or something?
They were running a sort of program for like volunteer students to sort of teach the younger kids, and I was like, I'm interested in that. And so I started talking to some of the higher up people, and they all said like, no, that's a wonderful idea, you can come along. And as I mentioned before, it's now called Hydro Swimming School because they sold it on to someone else. But when that happened, the person who owns it now was more than happy for me to do like professional lessons as like an exchange. Sort of say if they had like professional, proper sort of do this in the Olympics or like swimming lessons. And then in exchange for not having to pay, there was like, just teach young kids. You're brilliant at this and you have a way with people. So we'd love to get you to just give people your experience.
And so what kind of lessons did you teach people?
They were sort of more, they were like group sessions where it was you had one instructor at the top, and you would have private sessions where it's just like you with like 2 to 3 kids, so like make sure they all get a good understanding, more of a personal front to front, and they understand it. But the whole time I didn't do like the whole lead instructor thing. They found someone who was qualified to do that, so I had like a special degree and everything. But I always did the younger ones, just little 2 to 3 groups. And it was more sort of making sure they're held safely onto the wall by the railings, make sure they know safety first of all. And make sure they just do basically just quick 1 meter swim out to the side and then 1 meter back. Make sure it's all safe, they got it all in their mind.
And so what age group are you looking at for teaching here?
These were about 6-year-olds. So the age I was when I first started.
Yeah.
So it was very poetic that way.
And so it was quite sort of simple. You're basically starting them off so that they can then go into those larger groups, really.
Yeah, it was lessons were planned out where we would start in a large group. Actually, no, we'll do a quick warm up, have them swim 5 meters, we'd all be on hand in case one of them wasn't able to do it. Say, look, just sit aside, it's all right. Take a breather. And we just do a quick warm up. Then we'd get them into the group. Be like, all right, this is what we're focusing on today. You're going to focus on your kicks. Going to do some front crawl. Make sure you do large, big splashes. Stomp your feet onto the water. Whoever does the biggest splashes wins. And we do all those little challenges like that.
Yeah, just a sort of a fun bit of competition, but nothing too serious, just to sort of build up strength.
Oh, yeah.
And do you think that's something that sort of plays into being a good teacher? Because there's sort of two skills here. There's the swimming side, but there's also the teaching side.
Yeah, I remember I love swimming teachers, and I know the ones that stand out best in my mind are the ones I just talked with. Like in the middle of a lesson, I would just be like, hey, how's life? And they'll just talk to me, and like, we would just have a normal conversation. I'll still be doing my swimming, but they'll be talking to me from the sidelines, doing their job. And it's like, those were the best teachers I could have asked for.
Yeah, but you feel very much on the same level, don't you, with them? And that's sort of the teaching side of it. But the swimming skill side of it, what is it about you then that you think makes you such a good swimmer? Are there specific like traits within, like physically in your body and mentally, that make you quite a strong swimmer?
I mean, mentally, it's just determination. That's purely it. Just thinking about, you're going to do this, you're going to not take no for an answer, and you do it. But physically, I'm quite the anomaly because I'm quite a large, sort of hefty built bloke. I'm not very streamlined. And back when I had all my hair, they said, oh, don't worry about wearing a hat. You can swim without it if you like. So I just had all that flowing out. It was like everything was against me to really be a good swimmer. But I was somehow the best in the whole school, really.
Yeah, there's something, it's quite a lot of strength in the arms and shoulders as well, isn't it? Because I know that you see sort of like professional swimmers, like Olympic level, and their shoulders are quite large and broad. That plays into it, do you think? Yeah,
definitely shoulders, because it's a lot of switching between doing your crawls on your arms. You've got to move your shoulders quite a bit. Like, it is really, you don't have to be well built for it, but it does give you a great advantage if you are.
Yeah, and you said that you didn't feel like that was a benefit, but being tall, does that mean, is there a better reach, or is it actually more beneficial to be smaller because you're more streamlined? What's the sort of balance with that?
It makes no difference whatsoever. I have seen people the same size as me, they do just as fast as like some of the younger kids that I was teaching. Like, it's purely about just making sure you practice your technique. It's not a matter of like, it's more like gymnastics rather than sprinting, where you have to have like big muscles, a bit of that. Well, wrestling.
And so you say about like the speed side of it, but what about the being able to sustain it? So the stamina. How do you build up a stamina within swimming? Because I know when I went back to swimming after a large hiatus, I could physically still swim. It was like riding a bike, but the thing that had taken the biggest kick from my last bout of swimming was my stamina. What helps you keep that high?
I remember I did have this problem at one point during my quote-unquote career. There was stamina. When you start doing like the big intense stuff, it kicks you a lot quicker and harder than you ever thought it could. My advice to that is just focus on your heart rate. That's it. Is the trick I always did was as a quick warm-up before the whole scheduled warm-up, I would just like put myself underneath water, close my eyes, hold my breath, and just be still for as long as I can, just so I could practice holding my breath underwater. So I kind of made sure that my heart rate was quite cool and consistent throughout. Like, I didn't feel as much burn, but I didn't feel as much sort of pain at the same time.
And that's something that maybe not everyone has initially when they're going to swim, because when you've got like all the adrenaline going when you're swimming, especially if you're trying to go fast, that you can probably build up quite a high heart rate. So do you think keeping the heart rate low is very, very important?
It's one of those things where it helps. It's the main thing I can say. All I'm saying is like, oh, this helps. But swimming is more an individual's case. Like, how you best swim is how you best swim. That's what I was first taught, and that's the best lesson you can learn.
And as an individual, what is it about swimming that draws you compared to any other sport?
Ooh. It was just the most relaxing one. Like, I could play football and all that, but I'll be running around. I wasn't any good at it. It's quite fun doing football, but it's just the relaxation and just getting in the water. You can just glide for a bit, just take it slow when you need to, and it was still just as fun. Yeah.
So it's still, you still get the same enjoyment that you get from like football, but you prefer the fact that is it because also you do it alone almost as well, because it makes it quite personal.
Yeah, you can do it alone if you like. I had quite a few sessions alone. Most of the ones I did were in a group. But again, having those alone moments where you just, even when you're in a group, just in the water, just gliding along, you can just think to yourself about everything going on in life. You got like a nice, calm, relaxed atmosphere to just contemplate everything. But at the same time, you're getting a really good bit of workout.
Yeah, and in terms of being in a space and swimming, there's something to be said about where you are actually swimming. So, I mean, for me personally, I've swam so many different places. I've swum in Folkestone's like seafront. I've swum in swimming pools all across Kent. I've swam a couple of times in the south of France. Oh. It's glorious. But would you say that there are specific places that are like your go-to, that are your favourite to swim in, and what are the reasons for those?
Oh, it's going to be the child in me, but there's the Ravenside Swimming Centre down in Bexhill. That was one of the very first places I had my lessons done. Well, second or third place, but they had a wave machine that would go off every half an hour, and it was just really fun. You'd just be swimming and just bobbing up and down. Just if you felt really lazy, you could just let the waves carry you instead of moving your muscles.
Sort of like Centre Parks, if you've ever been there.
No, surprisingly.
That does surprise me. Their stuff for swimming is pretty good, and cycling. It sums me up really. So, yeah, wave machines. So it's because that's almost something to do then with just the movement through the water that you quite like then.
It's really just, as a whole, just being in water is just relaxing. That's it. I guess that's probably why my granddad was a lifeguard. But
so is it something that really runs in the family? Are there other members of your family that are also pretty big on swimming?
As far as I'm aware, I don't know about my great granddad, because unfortunately he passed away before I was born. But my granddad was a massive lifeguard, said before, and my mum just loved swimming. Generally, just any day during the summer, even this summer, she would just look at me being 20, and be like, "Harry, do you fancy going for a swim? Come on, let's go down beach." Nice. Mum, it's like 8 in the evening. It's like, yeah, but the beach never closes.
True. And you'd go.
Yeah, we'd just go.
Nice. And you still do that at any age. It doesn't even matter.
Oh no, it never matters what age you are. Swimming is swimming.
And so that's sort of almost like a bonding thing for the family as well.
Oh, I know my dad wasn't too keen on it, because he's more of a football bloke. He very much tried to get me into that. Should I say I did it in sort of side by side with swimming for a bit, but it was just having that swimming. I cannot stress how good it was for my sort of like mind.
In what way?
Well, being a little autistic child is very much you're going through all these little bouts of just like, am I socially acceptable? Is life sort of like going fine? Am I annoying people and all that? But you just get in the water and you just forget about it. It's a little home away from home where you can just, again, just relax. That's it.
And that's all it boils down to, really. In terms of, within my family, I like swimming as a form of relaxation as well. And this story will seem like a slight tangent, but it goes in terms of the opposite extreme when it goes too far. So my dad used to swim. He now hates swimming, even though he's probably one of the best swimmers I know, considering he's not got the frame for swimming. When he gets in water, it's just elegant to watch. But his dad, so my granddad, I mean, loved my granddad to pieces, but he sort of made my dad swim too much. So it was like he'd make him swim before class every morning. So like 6 till 8 a.m. would be swimming time. And then every Saturday and Sunday would be swimming. So he would never get a break from swimming, and it eventually drove him to not liking it. Because I think they sort of saw it as a career for him in a way that he only saw it really as a hobby. and it's sort of sad to see in a way because he's such a great swimmer, but I can also understand it because he's done quite a lot of that in his time. And what would you say swimming is to you?
Swimming to me, it's gone past that point of being a passion where it's just a hobby now. Fortunately, I've been able to do it for quite a few years because I've just been busy with everything else, but it's always just that hobby in the back of my mind where I'm like, I want to do this again. Just want to get back on that. I want to try and... I did have quite a few years where I was set on making a career out of it. Like, I was going for it. As I said, I was the best in the school. I believe I did win, at one point, top 50 under 18 swimmers in Britain, which was a very big accomplishment for me. I got to meet Duncan Goodhue, very famous Olympic swimmer. But I had a bunch of achievements under my belt. I could swim 25 meters in about 10 seconds. I could do 1 kilometer, no hesitation. I could race anyone, anytime, doing a relay. I think during the last 20 meters, I managed to get the group from last place to first place for like a fraction of a second. But, swimming to me is just, you really stopped me here.
We asked the deep questions on the My Generation podcast.
It's just that hobby I always want to have.
And do you think it's something you're going to try and go back to in a more serious way?
When I have enough time on my hands, I will cling on to it.
But you still feel like... Because I feel like I get this with writing, where it's that constant thing where it's like, man, just make some free time and do it. Like 2 nights ago, I just had the evening in and no work to do. I had a bit of work to do, but I just decided to write the starts of a radio drama, which could eventually appear on this podcast at some point. Maybe it's probably already in production, or maybe even released by the time you're hearing this. We pre-record these, so who knows how far down the pipeline that will be. But it's first draft's done. I just wrote a really simple concept for a radio drama because I missed writing. Yeah. And do you think that's a relationship you've kind of got with swimming, where it's like you don't always do it, but it's that thing you kind of need to do?
Yes, 100%. Like, you could probably see, again, I was saying my body is not built for being a good swimmer, but my body is built from swimming. Like, all the muscles I've got over the years, the strength I've just got, even just my mental muscles, just my determination, my instinct, and my guts, all come from just swimming.
And so you'd say that even over things like traditionally, like school, exams, even PE, just in a class sense, the swimming takes it all. It's the one thing that was like a constant growing up.
I even missed out doing my first gig in a band just to go to a swimming lesson. That was it.
Well, it sort of points to where your priorities are, doesn't it?
Yeah, my band all hated me, but I was like, no, I'd just rather be swimming.
And if it's still something that's sort of in the back of your mind, it's something you want to go back to, isn't it?
Always.
And what about the instructor side of it? Is it something you feel you could go into instructing again? What was it like working with children?
My favourite thing about being instructed to little kids was that I always tried to give them the same experience I had with my instructors when I was young. Same way that if someone, if one of them asked me a question, just outside of swimming, I would give them an answer. I wouldn't say like, oh, no, you got to fix when you swim first. I'd be like, no. Finding Dory was a brilliant movie.
And you would have chats like that?
Yeah. I think my favourite occasion was when the children started insulting me. It was really funny. It was my other instructor friend came over and said, Harry, you look really cute with kids around you. And one of them just looked up to me and said, you know she's lying, right? I was like, oh, you're hurting my feelings, mate. And he just looked back at me and went, shame you don't have a girlfriend to fix it. I was like, oh, that's another 2 laps for you.
But in a way, that if the kids are feeling comfortable enough to make that sort of joke with you, that's a great thing, because they're actually comfortable enough to just be making this banter, and clearly you're welcoming them into your world.
Yeah, I hope some of the kids I taught are still swimming to this day. I know a couple of them have recognised me outside of swimming as well. Like, I remember one time a couple of years back, I just went down the shops just to pick up some food. And one of them came up to me and was like, "Excuse me, you're Harry, right?" I was like, "Yeah, how'd you know?" He's like, "Oh, you used to teach me swimming. Why did you stop me?" I was like, "Oh, I'm still going, just I'm at a different place now."
Wow. And yeah, what was that experience like? What were you feeling when that was happening?
It just made me so happy. Just to know that these kids, I left an impact on these kids. So it was just unforgettable for them in a way. And I hope that just knowing me made them want to swim even more. Just wanting to push themselves in the same way I did when I was younger. And I had those instructors, was that I just wanted to keep going. That's where all the good memories came from, was just a good person.
Yeah, I feel like that's why so many people go into teaching at all for any subject, and it's quite an interesting story because you've taught in a different way to how most people would teach, like in a classroom where you've got like teacher training and you've got this big build up, and you've just sort of been just teaching kids how to swim. It's quite simple, but at the same time so poetic, right?
No, it does a lot to you mentally and just emotionally. Like, it just sort of cleanses you in a weird way.
But from the perspective of what you were teaching people, what would you say some of the biggest tips you took away? You've mentioned heart rate, but what are some of the other biggest takeaways for you in terms of like what you would pass on as knowledge to people who are swimming now?
It's to just not give up. That's always the big one. Not let any sort of like doubt in your mind be like, "Oh, I'm not swimming good enough," because there's no way to swim good. You can have a look at Olympic swimmers, and even I will criticize them still, but they're out doing what they love, and that I can't criticize. But on a more practical level, I will say remember health and safety. Health and safety is a big one. I've seen a couple of injuries happen in a swimming pool, but yeah, just always make sure that you're not gonna let anything get to you.
And in terms of that practicality as well, is there certain things with breathing patterns or timing breath when you to lift your head out the water if you're doing front crawl or something?
A little exercise for front crawl is always every 3 strokes take a breath. So you do 1 stroke on your left, 1 stroke on your right, 1 stroke on your left, breathe on your right, then you'll switch over. Oh no, I messed that up, damn it.
Wait, is it every other?
Every other. Not every other, it's just when you breathe, make sure you switch from breathing to your right to breathing to your left, just so your neck doesn't get cramped.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that, because when I swim front crawl, I always breathe looking right. That's just what because left just feels weirder. But is that to do with a cramp thing?
I say you probably got lucky where your muscles sort of got used to it, but I challenge you, next time you go swimming, start breathing from your left. You'll notice it's a bit more difficult.
Yeah, I've tried it before. It feels more difficult.
It's sort of the standard thing. It also gets a good bit of rotation in the shoulders going at the same time. Yeah.
So vary up your breathing sides, people.
Yeah.
Or you'll end up like me.
And I would not recommend doing butterfly too aggressively.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise you can just sort of like swing your arms out too hard.
Yeah.
And just smash something on your wrist.
Or, pop a shoulder. Don't do that.
A quick little story. I did see a really serious accident come from a very minor health risk. Okay. Which literally had the whole session being stopped straight away. According to the ambulance, we all went outside in the cold. We were told, "No, people, you can all go home. Something's happened." But it was, do you know the little railings on the side of the pool?
Yeah.
The way you're meant to safely enter a pool is you're meant to sort of dip your legs in, and then as you push yourself out, you're meant to turn your body around and then lower yourself. But we had an incident where someone didn't listen to those rules. They didn't spin their body around, and instead, when they went to lower themselves, they just went smash on the iron railing and snapped their spine. Oh. So, yeah, that was within the first 5 minutes. So you got to make sure you listen to health and safety rules.
Wow. Oh, and so were you like a teacher at that session when that happened?
I wasn't a teacher. I was one of the students at that time.
Wow. And so, yeah, that's... and what happened to them? Were they okay now? Did they come back from that?
They came back, but it took them quite a few months, and they weren't as good as they used to be, but they kept going.
Wow. So, yeah, no running by the pool either?
No, we were always told never run by the pool.
Nope. Swimming's a dangerous animal.
It is a very dangerous sport. Only the toughest of people can survive it.
Well, I feel like every sport has its little edge. I mean, what I'm about to say now is really going to age the podcast, but or show when we recorded it. Okay. But last night I watched the new Le Mans '66 movie, which was about trying to win probably the most dangerous race in Formula One. I think it's Formula One or racing, race car.
Yeah, I believe it's F1.
Yeah. Racing stuff. Yeah. Really, really class movie, by the way. I know it'll definitely be out on DVD by the time you're listening to this. Buy it, it's good. But what I take away from that is obviously there's so much danger involved in racing, and that's quite well known. But there's a little bit of an edge to that in every sport. But I'm a very avid cyclist, and I cycle busy roads every day, as you know. Yeah. And I've had quite a serious concussion from an accident once.
I remember that, yeah.
But I feel like you'd rather the adrenaline, you'd rather do it than not have it at all, even though there's a bit of risk. Like, I had my concussion from a bike accident, but I was wearing a helmet, it was low speed, and it was not really anything that I did wrong, so it ended up all being all right. The same with swimming, with an example like that, which is if you follow the health and safety, you can still, no matter how dangerous the sport is, that there's always that risk, but it's so worth it to do, right?
Oh yeah.
You'd rather do it than be scared to even try it.
Oh god, yeah. Like, the amount of times I had like cramped legs, I had to go just stand out, take like a quick 5-minute breather, or just like when my asthma was still a thing, like I'd have an asthma attack and I just had to stop. I would never walk away that day being like, no, I'm going to stop this here.
Yeah.
I would not even just leave the swimming school. After I was done that, I came right back in. I stayed to my struggles. All right, what's the exercise now? I'm behind. I'll catch up. I'll do that. Well, everybody else was there being told the next thing. I was there still doing laps.
Yeah.
I'll come back, be like, all right, what's now? And then I'll just slowly catch up. And then I suppose that's why I was good in the end, because that's pretty much what I did, was catch up.
Well, you set your mind to it, and no matter how many injuries you face, no matter how much sets you back, you just keep firing through it. I feel like that's just something that kind of applies to life, and not even just necessarily swimming, but this is the example it's fallen under. No, that's really cool. So do you feel like that determination sort of carried you through a little bit more?
Definitely. I'd say I missed out on everything just to have like one swimming lesson. That was the determination I needed. Was that it's not advice for everyone to say like make your sport the main bit of your life, but just find out one area that you know this is what you want to do. And just have determination. Be like, I'm not gonna miss any of it.
I was a bit like that with badminton, because I was doing it sort of 3 times a week when I didn't have the time to. So I was doing it 3 times a week for like half a year, and then either side of that I did about 6 months of just once a week. But then through that sort of 3 times a week, I'm like, I don't have the time to do this, but you just got to do it. Just got to do it. And they're great sports for different reasons, aren't they?
Oh yeah, like the bit that usually amazes most people is when I say when I did all swimming, I only did it once a week.
Oh really?
That was it. Most teaching lessons I did 2 or 3 times, yeah. But just going out and doing the practical, being the student was just once a week. That was it. Just an hour to 2 hours a week. You just set yourself aside.
So routine's quite important, isn't it?
Yeah. So you also got to try and make sure you pick the right time to do it. Because the little reason I left was when I went to college. I was in my 2nd year. They had their own sort of swimming lesson set up. But whereas before I swam in sort of late afternoon, I had to do it very early morning. I always wake up about 5 in the morning, eat your food, have like a whole dinner the moment you get up.
Yeah.
and then go for swimming lessons at 6:30 till about 8, then dry off and then go do a full day at college.
Oh.
And that just killed me after a couple months.
Well, that's like what my dad had, but if it's like a career, then that's one thing, but if it's a hobby, it's a bit different.
Mm.
And like suiting different things to different people. And in 2020, do you have any goals to dive back into swimming?
Hey, good pun there.
Hey.
I'm going to try and get back into being a teacher again. Because I've talked to my old swimming school before, and they were way more than happy to let me be a teacher again. They knew the experience I have. They still remember me after a couple of years. They said, look, if you ever want to come back, we'll happily take everything off pause.
And if you, listeners, have any interest in swimming, this is a man who can help you.
I know my fair way around the pool.
Yeah. Well, we'll be going back to Harry in just a moment to talk a little bit more about swimming and what it means to him. But obviously, if you want to get involved in the discussion, you can leave a comment here on YouTube or go to the Facebook page at the My Generation Podcast. Maybe you're a swimmer yourself. Maybe you're looking for someone to swim with or a place to or a teacher, in which case, get in touch. Absolutely love to get Harry involved in this, wouldn't you?
There's Harry Munday on every social media.
Every social media. Monday with a U.
Oh, yes, Monday with a U.
Otherwise, no one will find you.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Monday Swimming. That's not a page. Don't
Not
search
yet.
that.
Not yet.
Not yet.
No,
but
no.
maybe by the time this is out,
I might have done something. Who knows?
who knows? I mean, we're recording this, tail end of November? This is going out in like March 2020.
Oh, who knows?
So who knows where Harry will be? Because obviously we're talking about like 2020 goals. Maybe he's completed some of them in the first 3 months.
Oh, fingers crossed I have. That would be amazing.
And sort of looking toward the future of this podcast and episodes we've got coming up, we're going to be talking to so many people about loads of different stuff. We're talking to Lewis Schofield about writing, but the novel writing process. We talked to my friend George about that. We're going to be going back to the novel writing process. Another episode I want to tease that we've got coming up. I have a chat just by myself about being by the sea. I've already recorded that episode as well. It comes out a little bit after this, similar subjects, but what I'm talking about is being by the sea and what that means to me. As Harry will know, because he's worked with me on some of these projects, I've just come off the back of filming 4 different things, all in Kent seaside towns. So it's just having that experience by the sea, that calmness that we've talked about. I elaborate on my own in more detail in that episode. Might even be able to get Harry to provide a different perspective on that episode in the future.
I
That'd be
did grow up by the sea.
Hastings.
Oh, yes.
And that is across the border. But I think we'll let it slide for Harry. Well, we'll let him back on the podcast. He's okay.
If I behave well.
He lives in Canterbury. It's fine. That's just a few subjects coming up on the podcast. I mean, we usually talk about local impact at this point, but I feel like we've touched on quite a lot of sort of local places. You mentioned, was it Bexhill, the swimming school that you were in? Are there any other, especially like we're in Canterbury, what would you recommend if you were looking to get into swimming within the area of Canterbury or surrounding towns?
I haven't looked in Canterbury specifically yet, but I would recommend just go join a sort of a local one. I think the first one I did was at a Freedom Leisure Centre. That was the one I got kicked out of as a child. So, but that's not me hating them. They did teach wonderful lessons the whole time I was there. But it's not really you have to pick any sort of like specific one. Again, my whole luck and passion for swimming came from just a good instructor. I suppose that's the only sort of thing you need to look out for when you're going for swimming lessons. It's just that your instructor understands that you're a person, not a swimmer. An instructor, not a swimmer. That you just have a life really outside of it, and that they can respect that and can get on board with that.
And so that's lovely stuff that you can now get involved in swimming in the area of Kent. And if you're not from Kent, there must be plenty of other similar style options, because I can imagine there's swimming schools all over the place.
Oh yeah.
You'll be able to find one. Search for your local, as Harry did, and look where he is now.
Oh yeah. I managed to grow to a great size of 6'2" and have nice wide shoulders.
You do have wide shoulders. That's why I asked about the swimming and the whole wide shoulders bit. It does play into it. I think my shoulders are a little bit wider than they would have been if I hadn't swum so much. Because I started swimming really early. Like, I mean, I was in a pool at 3, maybe even 2, which is like monstrously early. But they put us in like those sort of ones where the water's like barely off the ground.
Oh, it's a little kiddie paddle pool bit.
Yeah, but like it was, I mean, you would actually swim, but yeah, I don't remember it. All I remember is that my parents took me there. Yeah, I was swimming before most people were, but you know, it's a whole separate story. I was like 7th best in my school, approximately.
That's not bad.
That isn't bad.
That's pretty good.
For primary school age, not secondary. Primary school. No, it all fell off at secondary. We didn't have a very good pool at secondary school, but
I don't think I even had one for secondary school.
I think we went to Moat Park Leisure Centre. That's where in Maidstone.
Oh, yeah.
That's where we did our swimming in primary school twice a week for 3 years, which is pretty good for primary school.
I remember it was at those freedom leisure lessons. Then once I left, I went to Silverdale School. We did in other places, but when I was in year 4, we had swimming lessons as part of the curriculum there, and they took us back to the freedom leisure bit. And I was like, oh, I remember this. This is all fun.
I'm back. And I remember Harry coming in.
Oh, they took one, looked at me, and went, oh, it's him again.
Yeah.
Lazy one.
He's back in swimming. Right, so Harry, we're going to wrap up the podcast in just a moment. There are future topics we still would like people to come on the podcast and talk about. As I said, we'd love to get some more people on about their creative subjects. I want to make a radio drama. We've been talking to people who've made radio dramas. If you've got any sort of narrative story that you're currently writing, we've had 2 people on about books, so maybe it's something else. Maybe you're writing a film script. Maybe you do some writing for promotional work. Maybe you're writing essays, maybe narrative, novels, novellas. Poetry would be an interesting one. Haven't had a poet on the show yet.
Oh, I'm not a poet.
No, Harry's not a poet. So maybe it's you that's a poet. If it is, contact the Facebook page at the My Generation Podcast. We want to get you on to talk about your subject if you're between the ages of 18 and 35 and live in the area of Kent. We're going to be going back to Harry now for one final question before we wrap up this week's episode of the My Generation Podcast. And as Harry may know, as a person who has been on the show before, Harry, what do you think you've learned by talking about swimming for the last 40 minutes?
Oh, I just learned how much it's actually impacted me. Like, before yesterday, I could have just walked around and just thought that was really my school that made me, like my friends and all that, but really it's just, swimming really is just woven everything together for me. It just brought me together, made the personality I use today, and set up a lot of my friendships.
Lovely. Well, what a great note to end on. Thank you very much for coming back on the show, Harry.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to be getting Harry again on in the future, if we can drag him back into the show. Maybe even talking more about the sea, what it was like growing up by the sea, because I've got some stories on that subject. I mean, you'll hear in the episode about being by the sea, and Harry may be back on to talk about that, or maybe film, as he is a film production student, or
Yes, I am.
the other thing that Harry does that is another lesser-known fact that begins with the letter A. Harry's forgotten his own life. Archaeology.
Archaeology. Yes, archaeology.
Which we may get Harry on to talk about. Would you be happy to come on and speak about this?
Oh, definitely.
Archaeology will be the next episode with Harry. He just forgot all his skills.
Sorry, I was just thinking about swimming too much.
Yeah, what swimming words begin with A?
Anaerobic. Aerobic.
That's two. That's two words. Well, that's all we need. Oh. Thank you for joining us, Harry.
Thank you for having me again.
He'll be back on the show soon. And thank you all very much for listening. Definitely tune into next week's episode of My Generation Podcast. We have more great stuff coming up. You can subscribe here on YouTube. Turn on the post notifications so you never miss a brand new episode of the My Generation Podcast. Every single Thursday at 6 forever. It's not ending, is it, Harry?
It will never end.
Yeah, we can schedule them till the cows come home. Okay. Thank you all very much for listening. We'll tune in with you next week for the next episode of the My Generation Podcast. I've been Max Barrett.
I've been Harry Munday.
Goodbye.